So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and break down this simple N8N automation where we're basically going to be able to take in a Zillow link. We're going to be able to scrape the Zillow site for a certain property. We're going to fire a couple APIs to get the median rent and value data of that property. And we're going to send all that information over to ChatGPT in order for it to do an analysis for us to really determine if that property would actually make a good rental property or not. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see a live example and we'll break down every single step in this automation flow. Okay, so let's say we are interested in this property and we kind of want to know if this property would make a good rental property or not. So I'm just going to go ahead and get shareable link. Now in my Notion page, as you see here, this is a simple one-line form. I made it with Tally Forms, which is basically a simple form maker. I use it because it's a really easy to just kind of set up the webhooks connected to N8N. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in the Zillow link here. Now, if you notice, because this is not an active automation, I'm just going to go ahead and hit on test workflow. I'm going to come back to my Zillow link. I'm going to hit submit. Once I do, it fires the automation. So from here, it fired it into the webhook. It's right now running through the Apify scraper, and it's going to run through the rest of this automation. So right now it's on the ChatGPT model. And then lastly, it's going to make its way over to Notion and it's added it. So let's go ahead and check it out. And as we see here, the property we pulled, this 2664, is now here. Before we go through this, let's go ahead and break down exactly what's happening in N8N and how we're getting that response. Okay, so it all starts with this webhook trigger node, right? So this node here, if this was an active workflow, every single time I submit that field here, every single time I submit that field, this workflow will trigger. And as you see here, we get a bunch of just raw data. Now here's the thing, we don't need all of this data, right? So oftentimes what I like to do, especially because it makes debugging very simple if things just don't work right, I often like to include what we call a set, what N8N calls a set node. And basically what I do is that out of all the information here, I'm basically just dragging in the URL and I'm labeling it Zillow URL. Then what I do is that I'm calling an Apify node. So if you don't know what Apify is basically a website where you can get access to a lot of scrapers through HTTP request. So the Zillow detail scraper is the one that I'm using in this example. So what I'm doing is that I'm basically passing in that Zillow link over here. And I had the AI model go ahead and just write me some custom code so that it could go ahead and get all the information scraped. So I'm sending this over to Apify. It's doing the scrape and it's returning me bunch of different data fields. Now here's the thing, again, I don't need all the data fields from here. I just need to select few. I really just want the address, the bedrooms, the bathrooms. I could have included the square feet. I didn't include on this one. Reason being is because these API requests that I make often gets that data for me. So from here, I included this code block because I have another trigger node set up where basically I have an address input where if you want to look up a property that's not on Zillow, you can actually just type in the address, the property type, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the square footage, and it would do the same exact thing. And because of the way that these API calls are set up, I really wanted to standardize the responses. So if I wanted to, I could actually build an N8N form node here and plug it in here so that all of the responses from these nodes are very standardized. Okay, so the very next thing I'm doing is I'm sending this data over to something called Rentcast. So Rentcast is basically a platform that finds median rent data as well as median property data. They have a very easy to use API. So this HTTP node that I'm using here is basically plugging right into Rentcast and I'm passing in all this data here. So I'm passing in the address, the property types, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, square footage. I'm passing in all this information here and it's dynamically mapping. And I'm doing the same exact thing to get the value as well. And once we get the response back from Rentcast, again, I'm cleaning out the data. I'm getting rid of a lot of fluff I don't need, and I'm just narrowing it down to the things I want, which are the rental data. Now, especially for Rentcast, they have a different API when you're pulling rent data and a different API when you're pulling the property value data. So I just created two different streams here, and I'm merging it. Now, a question you may have is, okay, why am I merging three different things? Why am I not just merging the two? The reason being, so something you might run into a lot in N8N is that when you're trying to reference data that you got maybe a couple nodes back, you'll often run into these undefined errors. And so that we don't encounter that, I just use a merge field here with three inputs where I basically just send the address information, I pull the rent information, and I pull the property value information. And I use another JavaScript node that I had ChatGPT code for me to basically get all the data laid out in a very clean way, then pass over to the AI. All right, so here the prompt is pretty straightforward. It's saying, act as my real estate investment advisor. I'm going to send you some property data, and your job is to determine if the deal will produce at least an 8% cash on cash return, right? And I include a lot of detail. But one thing you're going to notice here, I am using a lot of fixed variables, right? So I'm saying 30-year mortgage, 7% interest. These are all fields that could be made up front, so it's not as static, right? Because obviously, if interest rates change or if the insurance is different from property to property, which it will be, those are things that you want to capture. But for the proof of concept in this video, I just kept it very simple. So as you see here, these are different JSON fields. They're mapping over to the dynamic fields from our Zillow request. Oh, and let me just go back. And as you see from the API, we're pulling in the median rent and the property value. All right, and then so basically from there, I have another code node that just does help me with some formatting and then fires right into Notion. Okay, so in Notion, this here is basically now the response. So I had it basically break down by saying, hey, if I put 10% down, would it be a deal? In this case, negative. The cash on cash return would be negative. If I did 15% down, would it be a deal? Negative. And if none of those options were true, I basically wanted it to give me an option of, okay, what would make it a deal, right? So it's basically telling me, okay, I need a much lower purchase price. I need to increase rents to this amount in order to get the cash on cash return I need, or I can negotiate these seller financing terms, right? And it gives me a quick summary, not a deal, lets me know why. And yeah, basically that's it. If you're a real estate investor and you're looking at a lot of properties or kind of you're just curious, this is definitely something that can get you 70, 80% of the way there. Can definitely do a lot of grunt work for you so that you can just kind of take a lot more higher level view of the properties. So this template I am going to make available. All right. So if you do want to go ahead and download it and upload it to your own N8N instance, which basically you can do that by clicking these three dots and importing from file, I will make this freely available. Just check the link in the description. Thank you for checking it out.